AITA for telling people the truth about why I changed my last name and making my father look bad. When I go home to visit my family and friends in my hometown, I sometimes run into people who know my father and they find out that I changed my last name. Many people assume I got married, but I tell them no, I changed from my father's to my mother's. I try not to give out more information than that, and I do not like having everyone know my business, but some people really press me for information, and if they insist on knowing, I tell them bluntly and honestly that my father mistreated me, is homophobic, stated that he never wanted children, and I was ashamed to carry any part of his name, but proud to have my mother's. I also tell them I changed my middle name too, from my father's first name to a name of my own choosing. My brother informed me that when I say this, it gets back to my father and stepmom, both of whom think I'm cruel and heartless, and even my brother thinks I go into too much detail about the reasons and I should withhold information which he considers slanderous to my father and just say I took my mother's name and leave it at that. As far as I'm concerned, my father does not deserve my kindness nor respect, and I should not hold back truthful information if asked. AITA. NTA, your father was cruel to you. If he doesn't like it, then he should have done things differently. But since no one can go back in time, he should make an effort to do what he can to make things right between the two of you. He reaped what he sowed. But how was Opstad to know that there might actually be consequences to his actions? Exclamation mark. /s. NTA. Life has consequences, and you don't have to hide or be ashamed of the reason you changed your name. Boo boo, a grown ass man is mad his adult child wants nothing to do with him because of his own actions. Speak your truth. A quote I came across recently and love is tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better. And Lamet. This. Exactly. Plus, no one really just out of the blue changes their name to a new surname unless they're married or in hiding or other major life events. There's gonna be a reason for the majority of people changing their name. And people are gonna press. I just decided to use my mom's name. Why? Yeah. As Yav pointed out, their suggested solution is just another hurdle that the questioner will be eager to jump. Op already put vague answers between the questioner and the real answer. Saying you took your mother's name explains where the name comes from, but not why it was changed. NTA. You try to keep it to I changed to my mother's name. Nosy people get pushy and get more than they bargained for. I would want nothing to do with a man like that either. I think these nosy people got exactly what they wanted. Those details would be like gold in the gossiping circles. Agreed. I do the same thing as Op and just say my parents are divorced. For example. It's only when nosy assholes start to dig in do we get to well, I don't talk to my dad because he went to prison and recently overdosed and died. Whoops. NTA. It is your last name. It is your choice. It is not any of their business. NTA. Your father doesn't deserve to get to tell you you are unwanted and unacceptable when you are in the vulnerable position of a child, and then get to expect you to continue to allow him to let people think of him as your father when you are old enough to do something about it. Good for you for doing something about it and not hiding your truth. Edit. I'm still thinking of you because this hits very close to home. I want to add something. I was told many of the same things as a child, and then later as I grew older, that I should at least be grateful for the meager things my immediate family, namely my father, did do. I'm going out on a limb here, and assuming this also applies to you. Gratitude is a choice, not an obligation. It is a gift from you, and you do not owe it to anyone. Agreed, but adding, you can be grateful for the good stuff and still be mad about the bad stuff, and have an overall negative opinion of someone. Like, I'm grateful Trump eventually sort of told people to wear masks. It doesn't override anything else he's done, and I hate his guts. NTA. If your father doesn't appreciate the public knowing that he's homophobic and has mistreated his child, perhaps he should have considered that before behaving that way behind closed doors. He needs to own up to his actions and work towards changing for the better if he no longer wants to be seen in that light. You didn't make him look bad. Your father did that on his own. NTA. This happens to me a lot because I too changed my name. People get very pushy and I always warn them, and they're like, yeah, I want to know. And then I was sexually abused by that side of my family as a toddler. And they're aghast and say I didn't want to know that. Well, you insisted. Occasionally, someone asks me a question where the answer would require copious amounts of brain bleach as an antidote. Unless they have some reason to need to know, I tell them, you really would not want to know the answer to that. Usually, they back off. The key is to say it with a lot of emphasis and emotion. NTA, it's your name, and you should feel comfortable with it. Lots of people with childhood PTSD, me included, change their names because they don't like the sound or feel or their old ones. It's not their fault, it's the fault of the people who abuse them. I'm assuming that your father hurt you badly in his actions from your post. As such, you are NTA. You are within your rights to control your narrative. It is also therefore your choice how you choose to share that narrative and with whom. NTA, I have a feeling your father likes to control things, including the narrative about him or his family. You have every right to tell people your side of things. If he wants to bitch and moan about it, well, that's his problem. Homophobia cannot be tolerated, especially towards one's own children. I'm of the opinion that parents that are homophobic and seek to bully their children should go to jail and then forced into therapy afterwards, as well as some diversity training, but that's just my opinion. Hopefully the town starts to treat him as a pariah, maybe then he'll get a fraction of the taste of what you had to deal with growing up. NTA, your father is an awful person and people deserve to know that. I don't like shitty people. So I'd be glad if you told me the truth, because in this way I could avoid your father and his wife. So thank you. I also think that it's unfair that people are free to be mean to others behind the curtains and never pay the price for their actions. What's really cruel and heartless is what your father did / said to you. You personally didn't do anything wrong. He did. NTA, if it was slander, your father could sue you for it. Slander is not saying true things that hurt someone's reputation. NTA, I'm the type of pettier who would start being more open about why I changed my name. If I were in your position, your dad can sit there all day and repeat to himself, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Greater than sign. Even my brother thinks I go into too much detail about the reasons and I should withhold information which he considers slanderous to my father. For it to be slanderous, it has to be false. If your father didn't want people knowing he was an abusive homophobe, he shouldn't have been an abusive homophobe. NTA. Nice. I also changed my last name from my father's to my mother's. For me it was more in recognition of mom's individual effort as a single mother, not disdain for my non-custodial father, with whom I had a fair adult relationship by the time I made the name change. And I did it so that my upcoming wife and children would carry mom's name. TBH, skip all the family angles and renaming and whatnot. The way I see it is, you're casting shade on a bigot, which is a categorical good. Anyone who complains about it is bad. Bigots are always the asshole. NTA. Nap, except your dad. You are not tar for the reasons you stated. Your brother is not tar, since it sounds like he lives in that town and has to deal with the full-out gossip, which can be a major drain on a person. And him asking you to stop putting him in that position is a reasonable request. Doesn't mean that you have to honor it, just that he's not tar for wanting you to stop. NTA. Does it matter? Why do you ask? Should handle most people who ask carelessly. Nah, people wanna be nosy and ask. Then what's the point in lying to them? Not like your dad ever tried to save your feelings. Especially when it comes to homophobia. Sugarcoating the truth regarding someone's nature isn't deserved. At the same time, your family is entitled to their feelings. However delusional they may be about the past, that they likely see through rose-tinted lenses. My sister's dad is a similar way. Has told her that she's dead to him and that she should change her surname because he wants nothing to do with her, didn't want kids, etc etc. Joke is on him because has adopted. So my sister is taking his biological father's surname. After nearly 20 years, the name sounds like her. I hope you found as much liberation in taking back your identity as she has. I think the brother is a bit of an asshole here by trying to tell him that he shouldn't share whatever information he decides to share about his past. Yes, People are being nosy and pushy towards it, but it's his decision to tell them, and it's not his brother's place to tell him what he should or shouldn't share. His dad is entitled to his feelings, but he can suck it up. He made his bed. Don't want to be called homophobic asshole? Then don't be a homophobic asshole! Exclamation mark. NTA. He is deluded to think you owe him shit. I meant him pretty private, so, like, I would just say I changed to my mother's maiden name because I wanted to, but your father made his bed and now he faces the consequences for being a pose. NTA. A bit of an oversharer, but so am I, so I don't blame you. The truth hurts, and if people insist on the truth, then tell them the truth. If your dad didn't want to be seen as a bad parent, then he should have been a better dad. NTA. It // a little much to info dump on folks, though. I would suggest. My mother was accepting of me when others were not, and I want to honor the fact that she's been my biggest supporter. It drops the hint that your father wasn't without being quite so much. But then, it's an Aussie question, and if the info dump is cathartic, you do what you need. NTA. The people pressing you are. Anytime people press me for info, I ask them what bill of mine they wanna pay this month. Usually shuts them right the hell up. It's TMI. I wouldn't want to know more beyond that you took your mother's name. Unless we were confidants. That you changed your name in itself says a lot. If people are so rude as to continue to press you, do as you wish. But I hope you're not vomiting this on casually askers. Info. You're running into people who find out you changed your name? How exactly does that even happen? You go to your hometown and see Sissy in the grocery and she asks your full name? No. Sometimes when I run into people I have not seen in years, they say my full name when greeting me. You have never had people do this after not seeing someone for a long time. It's in a sort of joking way. Other instances might include giving ID at a restaurant for a drink, or at a bar. Seeing a doctor who I've had for years who notices my name change on file, etc. No. But if a long ago person greeted me with RB1327 last name, how are you? I would simply respond normally and not give them a big lecture about my tragic childhood and the specific reasons I don't go by that name anymore. Showing ID at a bar or the doctor and you also know the other person handling the ID. These are not typical and frequent interactions. Regardless, the answer should be the same in every case. If anyone inquires about the name change, something along the lines of trying something new. This is my mom's maiden name, or even something obviously frivolous like evading the long arm of the law. Haha. If someone came up to me and said old first name last name, how are you? I'd correct them. I'm good. But I changed my name to first name. My last name is the same. If they question about it, I'll explain BC it's my life. In Op's instance, they might correct them. And if they ask are you married? Op stated they say no. It's my mother's maiden name, then the nosy people start chiming in, oh, how come you changed your name? And it goes downhill from there. And it happens a lot. When you stray from the norm, in this case, changing your last name for a reason other than marriage or adoption, you tend to notice just how nosy people are. And how many people are nosy. NTA. am currently planning on changing my last name from my father to my mother's maiden name. I'm 27 yo, I have waited way too long to do so. But I seriously don't want to carry the man's last name anymore, and I really don't see myself getting married anytime soon. I'm in college and plan on starting a business when I finish. I'd really rather not have his last name when that happens. I also have a tough relationship with my mom, but it's not nearly as awful as with my dad. And my grandfather on my mom's side was a great man, so I really don't mind having his last name. I'd also like to mention I love the name as well. This year my mom sent me a Christmas card and she signed my name with her maiden last name. So I think she's pretty happy with the fact that it's what I want to change it to. She still has my dad's last name. They can hate you all they want or say that you're being hateful, but all you're doing is being honest about their hatefulness. People really don't like being called out for all the ugly shit they do. NTA. You have every right to tell people the truth about your father. That said, is there a reason you don't tell people to mind their own business when they are asking intrusive questions? NTA, it's not slander if it's true, and he's only upset because people are learning how shitty of a person he is. NTA. Tell brother to blame the people who kept pushing for a reason other than I took my mother's name, and to blame father dearest, since you are only repeating what he's done / said to you. NTA. If people want to press you for answers, no one can blame you for telling the truth. It's easy enough to just tell people it's none of their business. But it's also up to you to tell your story. I know guys that were named after their fathers, either first or middle names, and they've always either gone by different names or legally changed their names to separate themselves from their abusers. NTA. It's only slander if it's untrue. The truth hurts sometimes. Actions have consequences and all the other cliches. Bottom line, if he didn't want people to know how shitty he was, he shouldn't be shitty. NTA. My husband and I no longer have any contact with his parents. After we had our first child, a lot of people asked us how Mill liked being a grandma, or if she was excited. We would very bluntly tell them that we have no contact with her. If they pressed, we would give details. I wasn't going to cover up the mess she caused with her hate and horrible behavior. It wasn't my job to project her, and she certainly didn't care when she was being needlessly cruel to us. Keep doing what you're doing. Tell your brother to go duck himself. Never be scared to tell the truth. The truth shall set us free and the good will out. NTA. If he's embarrassed that he is being called homophobic, maybe he shouldn't have been homophobic. NTA. But I would be more guarded with people if they don't know you well, such that they are asking this kind of question, because it could negatively reflect on you as someone who remains this bitter. If you have any intentions on having a career near this area where you are saying these things, it would be best to stop and go to what your brother is suggesting. Nah, except that it does sound like you want to make sure the story gets out there, though, despite your saying that you don't like having everyone know your business. It's just as easy to say you needed a change and leave it at that. You don't owe explanations to anyone. NTA. However, if you want to avoid stung why you changed your name, you can start putting your foot down with these other people asking questions. It's a personal matter, for goodness sake. Just tell them it was my decision and I ask you to respect that and leave it alone. If they keep pressing, the conversation is over, and you can just leave. No one needs drama in their life. I try not to give out more information than that, and I do not like having everyone know my business. But some people really press me for information, and if they insist on knowing, I tell them bluntly and honestly that my father mistreated me, is homophobic, stated that he never wanted children, and I was ashamed to carry any part of his name, but proud to have my mother's. You don't have to tell them anything because they insist on knowing. Tell them. I'd rather not go into it and repeat it as many times as you need to. NTA. NTA. But you might want to find a new way to respond to questioners for your own mental health. Reliving this can be stressful for you. NTA. However, absolutely no one is entitled to insist you divulge the details about why you changed your name. It's private, is all the answer you need provide. Repeat as necessary. I don't see a need to air one's dirty laundry, but on the other hand I don't think you are tar either. Neutral. I do think that maybe deep down you get some private enjoyment on hitting back at him, which he deserves. But it's healthier for you not to. You are better than him. NTA. It ain't slander if it ain't a lie. He made this bed. He can lie in it. NTA. Being homophobic is more cruel and heartless than explaining your name. NTA. Only one person made your father look bad, your father. If he didn't want you telling people that he's a bad person, then maybe he shouldn't be a bad person. NTA. Actions have consequences. However, when going forward, if you truly value the privacy, you can simply say that you changed your name from your father's to mother's. When pressed, you can say the following. It's a deeply personal, and it's not something that I feel you need to know. People need to learn to respect boundaries. If you enjoy watching these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks.